Howdy folks, my name's Paul. Welcome to my kitchen counter. Today I'm working on this Dualshock 4 controller here. I'm going to be replacing the battery and the joysticks, if you can't tell from the parts over there. Now the sticks aren't too bad, starting to peel a little bit. And then the battery isn't totally dead, but it doesn't hold a charge for more than about an hour. So I had a junk controller that I'm using for parts, so I figured I'd go ahead and replace this stuff. As you can see, it's already opened because it was pretty embarrassing how long it took me to get this thing open. So when you get to this point, you undo your 4 screws. There are 4 plastic clips, one there, there, and then 2 down here by the joysticks. That's what I struggled with so much. Once you get to this point though, make sure you don't just rip your case open, because as you can see, you have a ribbon cable connecting your USB port and light to the actual board. So it's very important that you keep from ripping that. As you can see here, once you get inside, the battery's just right here in front of you, right on top. It's easy enough to just pull this out. Set that off to the side. There are 2 different size batteries, at least 2, maybe 3. I'm not quite sure. So always make sure that you get the right one if you're going to replace yours. Unfortunately, they put the model number here on the back where it always gets rubbed off, so it's kind of hard to tell which one you need without opening it up all the way and just finding out. So the next thing we need to do is disconnect this ribbon cable here for the touchpad. I think I need to go get my little pliers because that one's kind of tough to get. It's tricky. Okay, so I'm just back with my pliers. Again, you want to be gentle with that. Oh, and then there's one screw here in the middle, so don't start pulling too hard. Could break your stuff worse than it already is, if it is broken. There we go. We got to these. You just have to pull them off, give them a little wiggle. It does take a little bit of effort, but try not to, pull too hard, of course. If you're going to take it apart any further than this, one thing to really be careful of is this ribbon cable here for the touchpad. So it goes through the case, through part of the frame there, and it's very easy to get this stuck and damage it. So gotta be careful of that. I'll just pop these new ones on. They're not circle, so you have to be careful. You gotta put them on the right way. It's easy enough there. So then we'll just turn this back over and slide it back in. There's usually a little clip, it's hard to see maybe, it keeps your battery in place, or the cords for the battery in place. If you really care about that, running it through there, it's always easier to plug in the battery first and then do it. As you can see, it doesn't matter too much. So this is pretty much all ready to go. We just need to reconnect the ribbon cable here. It goes right there. It's kind of tricky, but before I do that, I did want to point out when you're taking off the back of the case on these older controllers, there's this little spot that goes in between the L1 and L2, or L1 and L2, or R1 and R2. On newer controllers, it's all one part, the buttons and everything, so you don't have to worry about breaking that. But you could break that, or what happens a lot of times is one of these buttons comes out of its little spot there. So you got to be careful of that. And then I don't know if you notice the spring that's on there. That's what makes your button work. So make sure you don't lose those. If you go taking these off, make sure you save that spring, because it's very important. And if you can, try not to even take it out, because it's kind of hard. They're hard to put back in, that's for sure. So we'll just connect this and get it screwed back up, and we'll be done. That a little wiggle, make sure it doesn't move. It does take a little bit of finesse, you know, just kind of wiggling it, pushing, not too hard ever, so that feels a lot better. Now those clips on the inside, I'm sure I already said it, but they aren't necessary. These screws do just as good of a job holding it together. I guess it's more for, when I was a kid, I threw my controllers, that's for sure, and sometimes those things break. So I guess if you throw your controller enough and you break all of those little things on the inside that hold your controller in place, or hold the case in place, that those screws come in handy. Or those clips. Did I say screws? I meant clips. There we go. I'll get it plugged back in, get this battery all charged up, and it should be good to go. My last parting message is my junk controller that I have for parts. I got a couple of them online in an auction, like everything else that I get. They were again listed as tested broken, and I plugged them in, and the lights turned on, so I knew that they worked, at least somewhat. They just wouldn't connect. Anytime I pressed the PS button, it wouldn't connect to my PlayStation, even when it was plugged in. All I did was I took a paper clip and hit the little reset button right down in here. That's all I did. and it worked just fine. Now one of the cases was really busted up and taped up and stuff, so that's why it became a junk controller, a parts controller. But the other one was just fine after that. I just cleaned it up and got it out the door. So again, don't be afraid of buying something online, even if it says broken or something. It could be something really easy, so you never know. I don't know what I have coming up quite next. Maybe some bike parts, maybe some more controllers or PlayStations or something. But we'll see, and we'll catch you then, folks.